Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. Well, after recent rants about bad kits that have disappointed me and disappointing announcements and things, I thought it'd be nice to have a more relaxing, enjoyable, non-ranty video where I can see something of high quality, supreme precision, far more enjoyable and calming for me, soothing my brow. And here we have it. I have a confession to make. It was my Christmas present. It's my Wingnut Wings Bristol F.2B fighter, and it's the post-war aircraft. Now, what a lovely thing! What a lovely thing, and long overdue that we've had a Wingnut Wings on the channel again. The last time was in October. So here we go. This is, of course, no longer in production. I think you have been able to pick up one or two. I'm not sure the person that gave me this as a gift, whether it was in the recent tranche release or whether he found it from somebody's stash or a warehouse. I'm not sure, but they're always beautiful things, you know. Probably not something I will build in the short term, but who knows? Who knows? You know, you look at these and you think you're building up for these fairly terrible kits, and you start to think. I even mentioned it in my rant video about the Edward, and I was talking about I think I'll build the camel. I'm definitely going to build the Wingnut Wings in the not too distant future. One of them. It's got to be done, and I think just the enjoyment of something that's had so much passion and precision put into it, it's going to be worth it. So there we go. Anyway, let's have a look at this one. So on the side, it's Wingnut Wings kit number 32060. It just shows how many they made. 60, yeah. Cool. And the rest. And it says, just zoom you out so there we go. When the Bristol fighter first appeared over the trenches in April 1917 with 48 Squadron, it was thought to be structurally unsound, and despite its name, was flown in a rather sedate manner, similar to a two-seat reconnaissance aircraft. You don't want that in 1917, do you? Because by that time the anti-aircraft gunners were on both sides were up to speed, you know. It said it was a slow and steady platform for the rear gunner. Not surprisingly, they were shot down just like slow and steady reconnaissance aircraft too. It was soon realised that it was actually a very sturdy aircraft, however, that could and should be manoeuvred as if it were a single-seat fighter with rear protection. And a fighter it was, with over 240 pilots and gunners achieving A status in this type. Wow, I didn't know that. And the Bristol fighter saw extensive post-war service with the Royal Air Force and also in Poland, Belgium, Ireland, the Netherlands, Peru, Mexico, Canada. This sounds like a list of all my subscribers on YouTube. Nationalities. Greece and New Zealand. Gosh. Following the war, modifications as featured on this particular model were numerous, including the modified engine cowlings and the radiator slats for improved cooling. Longer exhaust manifolds, an auxiliary tropical radiator, modified instrument board and a larger balanced rudder. Oh, a bit longer I think. These were all added. Very late serving aircraft could also be found with variable pitch propellers. Gosh. A larger horizontal tailplane and leading edge slats on the top wing. Slats? Wow, that's incredible. It does sound advanced, doesn't it, for the start of the 1920s basically. The Bristol fighter was not withdrawn from RF service until April of 1932. Gosh, it had a long run, didn't it? And it remained in Commonwealth service until it was retired by the New Zealand Air Force in 1936, just before the start of the Second World War. That's incredible. So it was a good plane then. And we have on the side, I'll zoom you in to see the schemes. We have here the options of the one that's basically on the cover, which is based in Egypt, the Royal Air Force in Egypt. It doesn't say the actual squadron number. Then we've got another one at 208 Squadron. 208 Squadron are still around today, aren't they? I think they've got the F-35, if I'm not mistaken. And that's in Ismailia in Egypt. Then we've got 31 Squadron in India in 1923. Then we've got the Irish State Air Corps in 1923 as well. And then the New Zealand Air Force in the 1930s, one of the last ones in service. Oh, look at that. Isn't that nice? So this has got a bit of appeal for a lot of different countries, hasn't it, really? Really interesting. Okay, so no more complaining and ranting and worrying about how they go together this time, because we know this will go together fine. Right, so let's have a look what we've got. I say this was my Christmas present, so aren't I a lucky boy again? Oh, got some extras. Hang on a second. Oh, wait a second. I've got a bit of aftermarket. Check this out. We can open this, can't we? Got my gloves on. It's fine. It's mine anyway, isn't it? But right, I won't be opening the bags, of course, sadly. So what have we got here? Here we've got the RAF metal late type turnbuckles for your rigging. Have a look at this. See if I can get this in nice and close for you. So this is the late type RAF turnbuckles. Wow. Aren't they tiny? And this is from Gas Patch, of course, our friends in Greece. Yeah, that's impressive. A nice little addition. Something to look forward to doing with the rigging, because there's going to be lots and lots of rigging on this. Just call me a coward. Whoops. Put that back in there. Stick that back on the top. Does it? What's the instructions like? Does it tell us much? Or not? Yes, it does. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. This is really good. Right, okay, let's have a look at this. So this is the Gas Patch, sort of the guide to how to use it. Okay, so there's your turnbuckle there. And on the inside, it shows you exactly how you should bend them, and how you should fit them. So it shows there the bend direction, how to use your tweezers in, bend and detach point, and then how to actually fit them onto the wing, onto the rigging. Isn't that good? It's nice, isn't it? So thank you very much to the person who gave me that. That's excellent. I do like Gas Patch as a manufacturer as well. Big fan of theirs. I like all their products. They just it's like candy, really. Like being in a sweet shop as a youngster, isn't it? Their stuff's all really kind of exciting. Anyway, let's have a look at the plastic. Although I say we're not going to open the bags at this stage. Whoops. Oh, lots of unusual goodies and a wonderful Wingnut wings. Instruction book. I haven't even opened it yet. I know it's going to be wonderful. So, let's have a look. There's some room over here. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. So we start with our. So I'm not going to look at that. You can definitely see that's the Irish Air Corps by their markings. Zoom you in. And it's got basically the Irish flag, isn't it? It's unmissable, easy to recognise. So yeah, we've got that. So we've got the roundels that are split for the RAF, and we've got lots of identification markings here. Different ones down here, of course. And the New Zealand one, I presume, has just got these. They actually just use the RAF standard markings, don't they, basically? Obviously with a variation on the code numbers and things, but yes, that's what we have. Nice big pack, and then on the other side we've got a little bit more photo etch than we normally get, actually. Seems to be a little bit bigger, a bit more of it. Yeah, so we've got the usual buckles and straps, and then what looks like a little bit of, I don't know if it's armour plate or if it's... yeah, I think it's armour plating there, and the rings for the gun mounting for the gunner at the back. So that's very nice. Lovely, lovely, lovely. All looking good so far. Then we have our instructions. So let's have a read of this. Gives a bit more info and a bit of background. So bear with me if you would. I want to tell you a story Initially conceived in early 1916, Bristol R2 was a reconnaissance aircraft to replace the Royal Flying Corps' ageing BE-2 series. Frank Barnwell's design evolved into the Bristol fighter in July of 1916, following the incorporation of the brand new Rolls-Royce 190 horsepower Falcon engine. An order was placed for 50 aircraft, and the first production Bristol F.2A fighter, A3303, made the type's maiden flight on the 9th of September 1916. Deliveries of this new aircraft to 48 Squadron Royal Flying Corps in December 1916 continued through to March of 17, by which time they flew their 18 new F-2A fighters over France. The operational debut was the 5th of April 1917, but was somewhat less successful than expected. Despite having the Bristol fighters on strength for 3 months, 48th Squadron thought it was structurally unsound. Despite its name, flew them in a rather more sedate manner, like a slight reconnaissance aircraft, as I said before. As a fighter, it was, with over 240 pilots. As a fighter, it was, but with over 240 pilots and gunners achieving A status, as I mentioned earlier, before the end of the Great War. Further amendments and refinements in the design that were obvious was the angling of the front longerons downwards to improve the pilot's visibility. It's downward visibility by moving them back at an angle. Okay. Several types of engines, and so the F.2B, the F.2B therefore appeared in April 17. Several different types of engines, including a 150 to 200 horsepower Hispano-Suiza and Sunbeam's 200 horsepower Arab motors, were also fitted to the Biff, as it became affectionately known during the First World War. Or the Brisfit, as it was called, as it was called in the post-war years. But by far the most common and successful was the 190 to 270 horsepower Rolls-Royce Falcon V12, Mark 1 and 2. Mark 2 and 3, I should say. 1, 2 and 3. Right. 3 versions. A misguided attempt to build a version in America powered by the overly heavy 400 horsepower Liberty engine came to nothing. The Bristol fighter continued to serve long after the First World War, with numerous countries, including the UK, Belgium, Ireland, Netherlands, Peru, Mexico, Canada, Greece and New Zealand, and even China. Post-war mods included, as shown on this model, the modified engine cowlings with the radiator slats for improved cooling, longer exhaust manifolds, the tropical filter, auxiliary filter on the radiator, modified instrument board and a larger balanced rudder. Some very late aircraft could also be found with variable pitch propellers, a larger tailplane and leading edge slats, as I mentioned. The Bristol fighter was not withdrawn from the RAF until April 32, and then of course, as I mentioned, used by the New Zealanders until 1936. Early aircraft colours were contentious at the best of times. We have done our best to provide what we consider to be accurate painting info. Wartime Bristol fighters were generally finished in the PC-10 protective covering number 10 on the upper surfaces, with the CDL clear dope linen on the undersides and BSG battleship grey on the metal cowlings. Okay. Very late war aircraft had upper surfaces sometimes finishes in AMA PD, or the AMA protective dope, which contained a pigment given a dark chocolate brown appearance. Surviving RAF aircraft could still be found wearing these colours post-war, but newly built aircraft, or those having undergone conversion to Mark II status, would have the AMA protective dope tropical style, darkish red-brown on the upper surfaces for service in the tropics, or silver doped overall. Engine cowlings were painted BSG, yeah, or unpainted. What's that? British Standard Grey, is that? Battleship grey, sorry. They're using terminology, changing the terminology. Battleship grey. Or unpainted on, or even left highly polished. Steel components, fittings and brackets were usually painted black. All the fabric surfaces exhibited a gloss appearance when new, but would lose the shine very quickly in service. Very interesting. So, wingspan just under 40 feet, length 26 feet, maximum weight 1.3 tons. It's like, it weighs like a modern car, and a light car at that. That's incredible. Maximum speed 113 miles per hour, or 182 kilometres. No, they manufactured 4,350 of these. That's a lot of planes. Wow. Armament, of course, was a 303 Vickers, or Vickers 1 or 2, or 303 Lewis guns. So you can see the 303, which ended up being in the Spitfire Hurricane, it was kind of outdated, wasn't it? Because, yeah, alright, that was the Browning, but as a calibre it was a bit too small. It was a World War I calibre, basically. Anyway, maximum height of 20,000 feet. There we go. References. Blum, 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 blum. RAF Museum in Hendon is included. We've got one there, obviously. Right then. Very interesting stuff. I've learned things already I didn't know. It's not a plane I knew a lot about. Anyway, let's have a look at the lovely instructions. I'm sure it's going to ooze with history. So it's the usual thing. They've got the sprue map at the beginning. Shows the decals. Then we've got straight into the build. Let's have a look closer. Now then. A lovely Lloyd loom cockpit pilot's seat. How amazing. A Lloyd loom, look at that. And it's got padded leather. You see in the photograph, padded leather cushion. And of course you're going to be sitting right on top of a 19-gallon rear petrol tank, which is, yeah, don't get shot with that. Oh, can you imagine what happens when this gets under fire? That's frightening, isn't it? That's really scary. Anyway, you're going to build up the gunner's control column, and you've got the floor here of the cockpit. Shows the Vickers magazine. The front Vickers magazine, is that? On the rear? No, these are just Vickers magazines that are going to go in. Yeah, it is the front firing one, in fact. And then you've got Lewis gun magazines here that are going to go in on the side of the fuselage sides and the framework. Grease pump for Konstantilensko synchronizing system. Gosh, grease pump, okay. Hand lever for adjusting the tailplane here, look at that. Wow. And then they have this lovely thing where they show the colours. Wingnut Wings are so good at this, aren't they? Where show the exact colours and how it should appear for you. So you can see that it's basically a wooden side construction, it's not metal. And then you get your instruments as well, and they're all decals for the look of it, decals. Nice photos here. We've got the side of the pilot's cockpit with the throttle mixture and spark advanced control levers. Wow. Rear of the observer's cockpit showed the cloth screen and the storage pockets used for the Lewis gun magazines. The 4-point safety harness is not appropriate for our model. Okay, perhaps because it was not needed so much during post-war. Rear of the pilot's seat showing the rear fuel tank, which it's sitting on. Gosh. And the fuselage footstep details. Oh yeah, it's like the shape of a boot, isn't it, where you put your feet in. And then here, the right side of the observer's cockpit showing mounts for spare Lewis gun magazines. Obviously they're the rotary, just plonk them on there. Wow, incredible. Note the interior colour of the fuselage linen. Wow, that's quite something. But it's very rudimentary looking, isn't it? Right, now, this is this piece of photo etch, I wasn't quite sure. So it's actually the screen and stowage pocket for the empty magazines. Right, okay, that's what the photo etch is for. Anneal the photo etch fabric parts to make them more flexible, so that's using a flame. And then that goes in there. The safety belts need annealing as well for the same reason, I guess. Then we've got the internal rigging detail, rigging guide for the cockpit. Oh, it looks complicated, doesn't it? My word. Got the firewall going in here for the fuselage. And then we get a lovely photograph over here. Just zoom back for this. Nice photograph of an F2 showing the various colours. Come back in again. Now we've got the fuselage coming together with your cockpit going in, which I think comes in from underneath. You've got the engine bearers at the front there going into the front bulkhead. Petrol filter. Oh, look at that, petrol filter. And then we've got the starboard elevator control horns, You've got the various attachment points that are going to go to the lower wing. Then you've got your undercarriage being built up here. Rotherham air pump propeller, which is basically like it's a generator propeller, isn't it, for generate electric power. And over here there's actually a photograph of it. Wind driven air pump for providing pressure to feed the fuel system in this case. So actually yes, that's what it is, the air pump, the Rotherham propeller. A fabric Palmer detached wheel shield. Palmer of course made tyres and wheels. They were very famous for it. Start of the 20th century, end of the 19th, start of the 20th. Right side, in fact it's in Sherlock Holmes, isn't it? Is it in the Priory School, where the schoolmaster's gone missing along with one of the pupils, and he has a Palmer tyre on his bicycle. Anyway, I'm digressing. Right side wheel details showing the reinforced undercarriage struts. Note the bungee cord and the axle retaining wire. Oh, very interesting. And then over here we've got the bungee cord and the retaining wire in a bit more detail. And then we have our bottom wings here. And then we've got an interesting shot really showing them okay, different versions. A in the middle, a C version on the left, and possibly a D version on the right. So 3 different variants of the type. Then we've got our bottom wings going in here and attaching with the undercarriage, obviously. Note the position of the small struts underneath. A view of the front showing the gap between the fuselage and the lower wing, and then a close-up shot of how the struts attach relative to the wing and the fuselage. Bombs and Holt flares. Now then, this is your next to the undercarriage. You have this dispenser for bombs and weapons, basically. Holt flare. I've never heard that description before. Holt flare bracket. Holt flares appear to be on the end of the wings. So if you want to drop flares, presumably for the artillery and things like that, when you're using it as a spotter aircraft. And you get little bombs, which are a 20-pound Cooper bomb, and this little rack, bomb ribs underneath. Quite cool, isn't it? Then you get your tailplane and struts going in, tailplanes going on, and then you've got this option of different types of rudder. There's a straight rudder, or there's a larger one with a sort of more Spitfire-like shaped rudder, if you know what I mean, with a cap on it. And then the Vickers gun magazines and the loading hatch details, and showing all the struts here at the bottom. Over here we've got lower wing with the inner front strut showing the rigging wire. Look at that, you can see the tensioning, the turnbuckle for the tensioning there. So there's your turnbuckles we were just talking about. Pitot detail on the front strut, giving you airspeed and altitude data, of course. Port lower wing struts, outer struts, showing the yellow reinforced tape, which should probably be clear doped linen. Such a later tape was used. Pilot's eye view along the starboard wing, showing the strut decals and the aileron control cable details. Starboard wing showing the useful rigging detail. That's quite helpful, isn't it, there? And then a side view of the rigging detail as well on the struts. And then you can see the starboard upper wing and aileron, and the join between the upper wing and the centre section, including the tensioning rigging there as well. Then, so that sort of gives you the background you need, and then you come back to the build here, and you've got the top wing going on. There's a centre section here with a gravity petrol tank, an aerodynamic one, it's quite a small one. Then you've got the windscreens and the Aldis sight, which is it's a gun sight, isn't it, I think. And then the Mark 5/17 compass, which is mounted in the cutout at the back of the wing, and you get your wing skid detail on the wingtips underneath here. Port top aileron, and then the starboard top ailerons going in, and then your tail plate showing all the cabling and the rudder. Now we get to the engine. So this Rolls-Royce Falcon engine, so it's not one I've seen before, I don't think. Or have I seen it in one of the others? I can't remember. Don't think I have. There's a V12 engine, normally aspirated of course, with the carburettor, etc. Magnetos, carburettor air intakes. It's quite an imposing looking engine, isn't it, actually? It looks almost like a little bit Merlin-like, you might say, like an early forerunner of the Merlin. Quite a simple, non-supercharged version of it, of course. Painting guide here in detail shows you the kind of colours that we should be achieving on the engine, which is nice. Always very helpful indeed. I love that. I love to do this. One of the best things about Wingnut wings. And then we've got various photos of the real engines, showing the engine bearings and the lower pipe detail. And you've got your exhaust manifold and your cam rockers, and the rocker box shows the colours of those very clearly. Upper water pipe detail for the cooling system, and the Vickers blast tube is not applicable on this model. Vickers blast tube. Okay. And then World War One style Vickers gun blast tube. Oh, okay. So the blast tube is really I think it's like a flash eliminator tube basically, so it doesn't give its position away too easily, and it's got like an exhaust vent at the top. So that's the Vickers gun blast tube it's referring to. Obviously post-war you don't really need that the same. On the left magneto showing the plug leads and their colouring. Very good. It leaves you no doubt, does it? You're not. This isn't like, here we go, rant alert. Yeah, this isn't like border model, where you're given absolutely no data about anything, any components, colours whatsoever. Not only do they tell you what they should be here, they show you what they should be. You colour photographs, colour illustrations. If only that more model kit manufacturers wouldn't take this up. You know, I know some of them do. You know, but people like Meng have started to get better in this area, and obviously Tamiya are very good at it, aren't they? Amongst others, Zokimura of course as well. But yeah, you shouldn't be guessing, should you? That's the job of the instructions, is to instruct you. That's the whole point. That's what they're called instructions for. Anyway, rant over. I did say I wasn't going to rant today, didn't I? I almost got away with it. So here we've got the carburettor detail here, inlet and the carburettors. Oh yes, the air filter here, of course, I think. Rear view of the radiator, and then the front of the engine. And then the firewall on the water pump detail. I think that's the petrol pump, isn't it? This one on the bottom, that's the water pump here. Engine bay showing the oil tank and the mounting details. And then we've got a nice picture here of a Bristol F.2B fighter of the New Zealand Permanent Air Force. I wonder what the P stands for. Appears to be finished in silver dope with the BSG battleship grey metal panels and the long exhaust, typical like the one on the front cover. Then we've got the engine bay and exhaust to be sorted out here. And again, these illustrations, because their use of colour, which is very like Zokimura or Airfix or now Meng, it helps you, it gives you that clarity about contrasting what we're working on and where it should go, instead of it just being a confusing diagram, like Border do. And Tacom, they're guilty of that as well. But you know, you're left in no doubt here at all. It makes it so clear, and gives it that three-dimensional look as well. It has this sort of strange sort of like a square cutout on the radiator, doesn't it, where the actual prop shaft to the propeller comes through. It shows the cowling here. Note the empty brackets for the Aldis sight and generator. The Aldis sight and generator on the top, that is. Engine cowling detail here. Note the slightly reduced size of the front cooling slot. Yes, here. Interesting, interesting. And then you've got a shot of the water pipes here. And the exhaust shows the exhaust system. You've got two different variants. One where the exhaust goes about halfway down, and one where it goes right the way toward the back of the fuselage. Amazing, isn't it? I suppose it's because of different temperatures. I suppose the radiator. Which way round would it be? I think the radiator goes the full distance when it's in hot climates, basically. trying to get the heat away from the pilots and the gunner. They don't want any hot exhaust coming out too close. Then you've got your propeller, and your cowlings are going in here, and again, thanks to these beautiful illustrations that have been achieved, leaves you in no doubt exactly what's supposed to be going on here. And you've got your radiator, all the bracket and cooling pipes, and then you've got your, zoom in a bit more, and then you've got your Lewis gun ring, scarf ring as they call it, which is because they've got the graduated elevation system on it, geared elevation system. So it has a ring for rotation, and it's got this geared elevation for going up and down. And you can see there in the real aircraft. Wow. Then, come back a bit. So we've got a very nice illustration here of the actual rigging guide. This is where I get very, very nervous indeed. Ooh, I've still not done one of these rigging World War One biplanes. Very, very shy of it, nervous. And that's it. So your model is finished basically. You just got to do the painting. And here we have the colour guide. So this is the one that's the B2 at Abu Qir in Egypt in 1926. And it says it was delivered in 1919. This is the silver finish, like the one that's on the cover. Lots of very helpful reference photographs here. And then there's the Ismailia Egyptian one in 1925 as well. And it's got, this one's talking about the variable pitch propeller is visible, screw downs lashing the wing skids and the whole landing flare brackets on the wingtips. Ooh, let's have a look at that. Have a slightly closer look on that one. Can we see that on the wingtips underneath? The bottom? Interesting. And then we've got this sort of the chocolate brown sort of scheme. It's not actually chocolate brown. It's this was one serving in Pakistan-Indian border, and it says finishing in dark brown AMAPD, doped canvas. They could also be dark reddish brown. The outer face of the wheels have been painted a dark colour. Although it's conjectural, we're showing red here, which I think was probably the most likely. Then we have got, sorry, zoom out again. Then we've got rather a nice picture here, and it says this is same production order as C, and it shows how it would have looked before service in 31 Squadron. Note the battleship grey engine cowlings and the propeller blades, shorter exhaust and the Holt flares, and the short exhaust sort of finishes, you can see the pipe finishes roughly where the gunner is, halfway down. And it says the decals appear to have been applied only to the outer front interplane struts. Okay, then we go to the Irish one. This is, if Jeff, my friend in Ireland, Jeff is watching, he probably is. This is one for him, I think. Got the Irish flag on it. It's very very easy to recognise what it's supposed to be, isn't it? Yeah, they use a flag, they don't use any kind of roundel. Irish Free State Air Corps. This was in 1925. So yes, and it's got the longer exhaust this time. Doesn't say why, interestingly, because I didn't think that served too far overseas. But anyway, and then we've got the interesting one at the end. This is the New Zealand version, and this has got a bit of everything. So it's got the long exhaust, it's got the extended higher rudder, as you can see. And it goes on to say this is the final one ever to be in service. It's made its first final flight in September 1936 before being converted into an instructional training airframe later in that year. It was finally broken up and destroyed in September 1939, start of World War II. Gosh. And it has this much darker engine cowlings. It's almost like a black finish. What does it say here? It says here, the pale blue of the fuselage cockade is notable compared with the dark blue of the New Zealand flag. And it says, however, it appears to have been darkened in subsequent repainting. Oh gosh, okay. And it has the black painted engine cowlings, and Yeah, I thought they were black painted ones with cowlings as well. And then we've got some more photos here. And this where it's undergone many tortuous experiments in the post-war period. This one was festooned with numerous meteorological devices at the Royal Aircraft Establishment, which is probably at Boscombe Down, I think. Or it might have been at Brooklands. Note the bulging underside of the fuselage visible on some late service aircraft. Oh yeah, it's got a bulge here, look. This one is usually fitted with a 4-blade propeller. Oh yes, it is. And then finally, final picture, it says a Huck starter truck is about to start the F.2B fighter. So this is so they don't have to stand there getting their hands chopped off. It basically clips into the central boss of the actual propeller itself. And it says the Holt landing flare and the white wheel covers are visible on this one. The Huck starter was based on the ubiquitous Model T Ford, and it was widely used after the end of the First World War. Well, there we go. That was interesting, wasn't it? And then all the great geniuses that used to work at Wingnut Wings that made this possible. Matt Fitzgerald, who does the 3D modelling, box art by Stephen Anderson, profile art by Ronnie Barr, and the project coordinator Richard Alexander, who of course today now works over at Qatari. Perhaps it's just worth mentioning that Qatari have just announced, not sure how I feel about this one, but they've just announced a new development kit they're going to bring out, and it's the Messerschmitt Bf 109 F4, I think it is. Whether we need another 109, I'm not too sure, but I'm sure they'll do a lovely job. Right, let us get on to look at the plastic, or peeping at it through the closed door of the plastic bag, I'm afraid. But let's have a look at what we got, because I think we'll still see the parts quite nicely. So I'm going to put this over here. I won't be needing my knife today. Just put that there. Let's have a look at what we've got. So, what have we got here? Sprue I. And this is the one that contains the different options for the exhaust, which looks really nice actually. Let's have a look at this. Here we go, our exhaust. So this is the short version. One that goes about halfway down the fuselage. And over here is the long, oops, get rid of those reflections, there we are. This is the long version, the full fuselage length version. This goes all the way to the end. I don't know if it has like an actual sort of horn at the end, because it's not kind of slide moulded at the end of this, as you can probably tell. Yeah, so you might need to do a little bit of modifying and perhaps drill a hole in that. Then we've got our radiator grill here, which looks very nice indeed. Put it that way up, that's the right way up now, here we go. That's cool. And we've got our very detailed wheels and tyres, which looks absolutely fantastic actually. That's nice. There's quite a lot of detail around that actually. We've got various sort of support frameworks, and we have our cowlings here for, zoom back a bit, cowlings for the engine. We've got our optional slightly larger, deeper rudder here, and obviously this is the front part of the tailplane that it goes on to. Yeah, and some very, very nice. Is that the instruments? That's the instruments, isn't it? Here, instrument panel. Just zoom in a bit more on that. He says, I've got lost. Where's it gone? There it is. Instrument panel, which is very nice. Right, that's that one. Then we have got our. There's different options, obviously, with the two-bladed or the four-bladed prop. Now, the two-blade, I think, is the one that was variable pitch that they were saying, wasn't it? So let's have a look at the four-blade first, because that does look very, very attractive, I've got to say. That's nice, isn't it? I mean, that's really nice moulding. Now, remember, this kit was produced in... Bear with me a second. Bear with me. The kit was produced, does it have a date on it? 24th 2015 it was. 2015. So it's fairly late, one of the fairly later ones that Wingnut Wings produced, but I make that comment simply because, frankly, you know, it's almost a little bit Zukimura looking, isn't it, the way they've done that propeller. It looks very nice, to be fair. And then they've got the two-bladed version over here, which also looks absolutely brilliant. Yeah, looks very nice indeed. And then you've got all this lovely, the stitched sides to the fuselage. I'm hoping this is going to come out, even though we're looking at it through the bag. I think you can see that. I'm going to have a little closer look at it. Can you see the stitching all around the side of the panels? That's really, really good, isn't it? Yeah, I like that. That's been well recreated. You know, these things were literally stitched together, weren't they? Like a bag almost, on a big scale. Then we've got our cowlings there, and there's another couple of cowls over here. Zoom back a bit. Focus always works better when I'm not on full zoom. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? If we look on this side, we've got on the opposite side, we've got more of that beautiful stitching. I will zoom in again for this. More of that lovely stitching. Absolutely fantastic. Yes, a really, really accurately done observation of the sort of nature of these aircraft, really, the things that makes Wingnut Wings so special. Then we have got some wings to look at, and oh yes, again, more lovely stitching. Let's have a look at this. This is impressive. And look at this, there's no like wobbly, floppy, warped sprues here. Everything's perfect, as it always used to be, of course, with our friends from New Zealand. Look at this. Again, you can see all the stitching in the ribs. Let's get a little bit closer. Look at that. Yeah, that's pretty nice, isn't it? It just feels like an old school proper biplane. And then underneath, the same wing on the underneath side. Again, you see all the stitching. Same on the other side. Just zoom back a little bit. There we go. All the stitching's present there as well. You can see where all the struts are going to go in. I feel, look at that, look at the ribbing, all the ribs. It just makes me feel relaxed, and looking at these compared to this slightly irritating kit that I've been making from Edouard. I don't want to start bashing them again, but yeah, it's just nice to have the relief of looking at something like this where you think, this has been done properly, hasn't it? It's really, really nice. Now we've got the all the other parts, those into the tail planes, the elevators, the centre section for the wing, and again, some fine detail here. Look at that. That's nice. There's your centre section again. You can see all the stitching and the ribbing effects. And we've got more ribbing on these elevators. And then we've got our side panels, which of course are actually wood on this aircraft. All this framework at the side is wooden. There it is. So you paint that up as if it's sort of dark wood. Just trying to think what that would be. Probably would be teak. No, that'd be too heavy perhaps. Perhaps not teak. There's your conventional smaller sized rudder. And the smaller sized tail section. We could call it short tail if you like. Yeah, and again, wonderful detail, wonderful detail. It's just a pleasure to look through things like this, isn't it, really? For me to get this as my Christmas present. Thank you very much to the person who gave it to me. I'm very appreciative. Wow, look at this, it just gets better. Now we're going to get into the engine. And we've got the actual engine radiator itself rather than the cover. So let's zoom you in here. Yes, so we've got the radiators. Look at that. Nice detail there. And then we've got all the surrounding sort of cowl ring, front cowl ring. And we've got the mounting point for the radiators there. Got the struts for this is for the undercarriage struts. Beautiful detail. As you can see there, it's got its little. This is the little generator for the for the fuel pump, I think it was, wasn't it? That we talked about. The Rotherham fan, did we call it? Rotherham propeller. And then we've got our seat. You can see here the nice leather padded seat. And what else have we got? Here's that pump, the grease pump handle here. I'm just going to knock off some of the lights. I think that maybe a bit too much light is a bad thing. That's better. That's better. There's the, oh look at this, the Lloyd Loom wicker seat. Look, wicker type seat. Lloyd Loom. My mother used to have a seat just like this. Let's just see if you can see the back of it. We lost it. There it is. Lloyd Loom seat. Yes. Yeah, that will really pop when you put a wash on that. I think you can get it to look really realistic. Gonna make it look a bit more hollow, perhaps. And then we've got all sorts of fine detail parts here. Part of the engine. We've got the engine bearers there. And we've got parts of the radiator grill mounting there. Some really nice parts. And then you've got the fuel tank that the pilot's going to sit on here. Rather him than me, I have to say. These were real daredevils, weren't they, these gentlemen that used to fly these aircraft. Not for the faint-hearted, is it? That's all. Anyway, that one goes in there. Just a couple left. I think we've actually got a duplication here as well, so we'll move that one away. So we've just got 3 left, in fact. So we've got the. Is that? I just realised. I think when I said those, the ones that were the ribbed. I said ribbed elevators with the stitching. They're actually the ailerons. This is the elevators because it's more shaped, as you can see. So sorry, slight mistake there. So here we've got everything. We've got our Vickers gun, Lewis gun. I've certainly got the Vickers anyway. Is it the Vickers? Is that the Lewis gun? I think that's the Vickers. I think so. And because it has a shroud on it, it has this cooling flash shroud that we talked about. There you can see the sort of bandolier magazine drums. And there we've got the exhaust pipes that come out when they come out of the engine. I think that's an optional one. I don't think that's used in this particular kit there. You use the long ones that I showed earlier. And I think possibly likewise with that wheel as well. And then we've got a couple of the struts, the cabane struts. We've got our little, what were they, 60-pound bombs. And bomblets, aren't they really? They're so small. They're like the sort they used to throw out of the aircraft. That's very nice sprue though, isn't it? Good detail there. A few details around the engine there. That's that one. And then we have got the engine itself with our cylinders here, our V12. What did we say? It was the Falcon, isn't it? The V12 Falcon. There's all the cylinders. You've got your main block here. And you've got your manifold. Got your manifold here. Complete with your push rods, and you've got your cams. Those are the cams, aren't they? Yeah. They're not cams, are they? Rocker shaft is what I'm looking for. They didn't have camshafts then, did they? I think they came in later. Rocker shaft. And then you've got your carburettor intake feeds here. And those are the carburettors over here themselves. Very nice, isn't it? Beautiful. Yeah, it says Rolls-Royce Falcon on it. See that? Rolls-Royce Falcon. Oh, lovely. Exquisite moulding, isn't it? Just an absolutely exquisite moulding. And then we've got clear part here, clip arts, but it's just a tiny, the usual thing really for World War I or thereabouts, with the vestigial windscreen. Not a huge amount to really say about it, to be honest. Yeah, tiny, and then there's a couple of just light covers. And that's it. So, what do we think? I think it's going to be the usual response from me, I think, isn't it? Inevitably, really. There's no great suspense here because it's 10 out of 10. You don't get any other kits that have instructions of that quality. You just don't see it anywhere else, really. So it's an automatic 10 because you've got everything right. You've got the box art that's right. The detail, the clarity about how you're going to assemble the kit is just there. Beautiful as ever. And I own this one, which is nice. I got that as a gift. So thank you to the person who gave me, and I give him 10 out of 10. I give 10 out of 10 rating. What a surprise. 10 out of 10 for Wingnut Wings. Always. Quite an interesting aircraft, actually. Yeah, it's quite a big aircraft, isn't it? Not short of power and not heavy. What was it, 1,290 kilos? I mean, that's the same as my car, you know. Amazing. Amazing, really. Big aircraft like that. Astonishing. Just shows how efficient they really were. Anyway, I hope you found it interesting. Nice not to be having a rant today. I tried to avoid going down that road as best I could. Very pleasant to see something so beautifully executed, and you know, we do miss Wingnut Wings. We've obviously got Qatari coming through. I mentioned they've got this new Messerschmitt BF 109F4, I think it is. Be interested to see whether I want one. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure they shouldn't have gone for a Hurricane. I would personally, if I was advising them, I'd say you should have got a Battle of Britain Hurricane. In 32nd scale, there's nothing around much apart from Ravel and Trumpeter. But nothing of their quality. I think that they would have sold really well. I'm not sure that... Yeah, they'll sell a few of those 109s, they will, but whether they would have sold more Hurricanes, I think they might have done so. If you're listening, please bear that in mind for the future, because I think that's a winner. I think that we need a top premium quality Hurricane in the market. Nobody else is doing it, and I think Qatari are probably prime candidates, and maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity by not choosing that one, which for me was the obvious one. Anyway, what do you think? Let me know in the comments or in the chat, and thank you very much for joining me. I hope you give me a 10 out of 10, a thumbs up, a like. Please, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Plenty of interesting things to see. Lots more coming through in the near future from people like ICM and other things too. And I'll be giving you an update. Probably due very soon for a update on the build of the Edward Zero. Less than about. It's not that bad, it's okay, but just didn't quite live up to expectations. But we'll have that done soon, and we'll have the after build review for you to see. So plenty coming through, plenty of things to look out for. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Hope you thought it was interesting. Please, until next time, I'll be back soon. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves, stay safe, stay warm. Thanks very much for joining me. I'll see you again soon. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.